Let's get scared.
Hello.
Hello.
We're gonna continue on this trip through hell for me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're taking one for the team. Because
Okay.
I find the story compelling. I don't think I'll ever pick up this game on my own.
Dude, honestly, I'm proud of myself for wanting to play this. Normally, I would just watch my favorite YouTuber, or one of my favorites, Gab Smolders, play this. And live vicariously through her. Or Scary Games. What the fuck? Or Scary Game Squad.
You didn't sweep enough.
I didn't sweep. I only squeezed. I didn't sweep.
You squeezed and you ran right into the fire.
What was I expecting to happen? So it's just us, our technician lady friend. I can't remember her name.
Finley or something?
Something like that. Oh, flashlight. I forgot about that.
Counterweight control. Oh boy.
Who else is still alive?
I don't know. Probably characters you haven't met yet.
Our diabetic friend is a monster now, which I'm a little bit sad about.
Oh, Roy.
I
think I missed that happened.
Which I'm impressed by because he was like giant. Oh, and then that dude that like the monster design reminds me of like those tripods from the War of the Worlds movie that Steven Spielberg made.
Yeah, they're like organic tripods.
But like with like 20 more limbs, you know?
Yeah. What was it that I was...
Oh, okay.
What was it I was listening to that discussed like It was a story recently that someone was mentioning how it was basically just a redux of War of the Worlds. Which is like... Well, that didn't work out.
No, it didn't. No, it did not.
So War of the Worlds is... Now we're going to do... This is now Book Talk. We're now on Book 2, Book Talk. It is Reading Hour with Connor.
You know, we could
seriously
spin that,
though, like,
probably.
I probably should make that my podcast, honestly. That is like the thing that I actually care about spending my time on. But not that I don't like games, but you know how it goes. War of the Worlds is one of those books though that like it's very interesting when you first read it if you don't know the conceit. And like I was lucky that I never had it spoiled before reading it. But once you know the storyline, it is a lot less interesting. Like H.G. Wells has the amazing ability of science fiction authors of his era to write some of the most awfully
Say it.
tedious
There you
writings.
go. Like,
I was trying to think of a different word and it didn't come to me. But
what the hell?
Okay. It's glitching. The game is a little glitchy. It's okay.
Fuck. It's soaking. I need to sort it at the fuse box or it'll keep shorting out.
I feel like you're supposed to be able to jump over to that little block. That feels like that's possible, but it feels like there's not enough distance.
Oh,
there we go.
I just really fucked it up the first time.
Oh, Jesus.
Seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah, sounds like a terrible idea.
Okay. Wait. Oh, I was like, how am I supposed to pass if there's no... So continue your thought. Sorry about H.G. Wells.
Oh, it's just he's like really good at writing like science fiction that is interesting, but it's like really tedious.
That's kind of how I felt. To jump the gun, when I went not through a phase, but I went back and read like Spider-Man from the beginning, like straight up from like Stan Lee days, right?
Oh, the comics.
Yeah, and I'm like, why are you explaining so much, homie? Like, it was a lot more text
Hmm.
than I was
What's
anticipating.
the newer iteration? The one that got really popular, I think in like the 80s or 90s. Can't think of the author right now. But there's a writer who took over.
Kirby, Ditko,
Mm, huh?
maybe Ditko,
I think it's Ditko I'm thinking of.
maybe.
But basically, it was like that era of like a more complex and not necessarily morally ambiguous, but just like the consequences were much more carefully explored. Because like realistically, those early stories are just like kind of very good, like good guy, evil guy stories.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate some of like the Spider-Man story because like it does kind of remain consistent and it doesn't have while it has the same contradictions that like a superhero story has in general, it's not like Batman where it just feels like deeply flawed to talk about this like yeah traumatized man, but he's like a traumatized man born into like such immense wealth you can't and none of us can probably ever imagine. And his like the joke is that like his trauma response is to put on like a cape and go fight people. Did that work?
I'm not sure what the move is. Because I doubt I'm gonna get back over up that way. So I need to go down.
Definitely a puzzle moment. It's like, what? How do you move this block so that you can proceed?
Well, I assume it's just a timing thing. I need to jump onto this as it's going down.
But no, the
Yeah. Okay.
the time machine.
Yeah,
Is
and
another one from
I have
H.G.
not
Wells.
read either. I had a
That
weird like, not relationship. That's not quite the right word, but like I missed the boat on a lot of like what you would call like American classics. Like I never read any H.G. Wells. I never read Darwin. Not Darwin. Dickens really. I never read Catcher in the Rye. Like
you
all
know
of
what?
these American classics, I've never read.
I
And
think
I
I've
can
only
imagine
read.
I can imagine you saying like, "You're fine," but like,
I mean, you are fine. Most of the classics, and like this is one of the issues with like among many, of course, with the American
remove
educational
safety
system is just
pinch.
like you get into some in high school levels.
Okay, back to the winch controls.
You could do a lot more compelling sets of books for kids and not insist on them reading like you know 50, 60, 100-year old books. I do think there's some value in some of those books, but I think you need to mix in some more interesting
There's a fucking understatement.
books like from at least the 80s forward or the 70s forward. Although I said 50 or 60 and that those are 50-year-old books at this point. But
Hope so, pal. Fucking hope so.
and I mean part of it is because part of the issue right now, of course, is like entirely a social one, and that like schools and administrations are so terrified of like parents being freaks with any book that is slightly outside of the normal, and like this applies to many things. So they just stick with these classics because they think there's no one's gonna take offense to them.
Oh yeah, because when I did, God, I can't remember the book now. There was a movie, like that fucking helps. I remember the prequel name. It was the prequel's called Concrete Roses. The Hate You Give. That's what it is.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I did that with my sixth graders. Probably shouldn't have done that with sixth graders, to be honest. But I did it because I was like, hey, this they can relate to. Because, I used to teach in a pretty high gang activity area. My school was surrounded by where the gangs lived. I was like, these kids will appreciate the nuances that this story has if you just trust them a little bit. And they did. Like, kids are
that's
much
the
more
other thing is like
mature than
kids are a lot more aware of what's
and
happening in the world
capable
than
than we want to
adults
give them
credit
credit
for. This is going to be like my spicy take for the episode. It's not that spicy, honestly. It's just like we're all so bent out of shape about like protecting children, and like that's a perfectly fine impulse.
From what?
But well, let me put it this way: like that's a perfectly fine impulse, and like there are things that children need to have some degree of protection from because like they aren't able to do everything completely on their own yet. Now, some of that is physical limitations, and some of that is social. To be clear,
Social emotional
but
limitations, yeah.
but a lot of it is also just like a lack of faith and trust that they can figure it out when like you've all figured it out already. Okay, it's like, or on some level anyway. Like many of us haven't. Is the other side of that, and we're also just like very good at this. Like, you're not a free thinking agent until you reach the age of 18. Like, we treat everyone as just like complete fools, incapable of independent action until they're 18.
Oh, fuck
Not
this.
not every parent, but a lot of parents really just want like a mini me to project into the world, and
Oh, no. I hate this, Connor.
I don't like it. Nope. Nope. Is that Finley? That sounds like the Finley person.
Or it's mimicking us, Connor.
God, how did they even get there?
Oh, okay.
Jesus.
And the water looks so gross.
It's oil. It has oil in it, I think. It's all rainbowy. Which makes sense, you're on an oil rig.
But yeah, no, like, my students are like autonomous beings. They're just really inexperienced autonomous beings.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before, too. It's like, I do think that some of it, there's definitely going to be a certain amount of, like, lack of ability to understand. Yeah, this is just, like, completely dark. This sucks. I hate water levels.
I wish that was more clear on what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, because that would have probably been easier if you knew you were able to hold on to those and propel yourself forward.
Yeah.
At least a little more clearly.
Strictly no smoking.
But what is it? What is the thing? I'm gonna pontificate about the world right now again.
It's our brand pretty much right now.
Yeah, we'll find an audience with this eventually. I mean, genuinely, this might be like we find the audience by having a podcast, and then they watch our streams randomly. But, but the thing is, like, there's definitely factors that are, related to consumption of like influencer content and stuff like that like causes kids to be like unwilling to follow like reasonable requests from authority figures and stuff like that. Like they
Here we go.
you wind up with like,
oh, I hate this. I don't know.
Oh, that's rough. Oh god.
Oh no.
Oh god. any case, like you wind up, that's where you get the conversation about like how kids aren't paying attention, they're being terrible teachers and all that kind of stuff. But on the flip side of it is like, for better or worse, these humans, separate from like concept of kids, like as people with agency, have grown up in the context of like everyone kind of failing to do anything about any of the problems they're dealing with. And so, and like kind of just like unclear about what opportunities there are, but you can propel yourself up, it looks like.
Well, the
So
water
my only
level is
point
gonna
is like
keep
there's
rising.
probably a certain amount of like what
Oh, I hate this.
certain amount of the recognition of the farce that certain authority figures have for young people.
Why does he swim so slow? Oh my god. Okay. Oh.
Shite, that was close.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my counselor coworkers, and I'm like, they talked about how like a lot of the students don't really have hope,
And that's the thing.
and I'm like, I don't
and that's
fucking blame them.
and that's the thing that I'm talking about. It's like you can't just force
Still
hope
another one.
into people. You have to do things that like make it seem like a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just kind of like not doing anything to address these problems that these kids are dealing with, putting them into a world that like realistically, like we're in this situation now where like
Thing's locked.
I don't know, I saw something the other day where like a PhD physics professor, researcher professor or whatever, is at some university. It was actually, I think it was actually like the University of San Diego, UC San Diego, or another university down there. I can't remember exactly, but it was one. It's in California, I believe. They only paid like 75 grand, and a lot of people are like, you can do fine with that. And I'm like, have you looked at rents in that region, like
No,
where
dude.
I'm at, let alone San Diego? And it's like that's not enough money unless you live with like 6 people and probably share rooms. Um, if you also need a car, if you also need, it's like you can, yeah, you can do this. Like you can figure out a way to do it, possibly. But like if you find yourself in the situation of you didn't have a job before, now you have this job, or you had a very low paying job, you might wind up being in a situation where you have to lease or finance a car. Now you're paying for that. Like you won't have enough money to get the car, but you need to get a car like used, which is the
Mm-hmm.
responsible thing maybe. But you need the car to hold the job. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
America. Then you talk about rent, and it's like it's basically impossible to find an apartment for, in my area, it's a 1 bedroom right now is like 2 grand. A few in here and there are less, but it's like
And
around
that's
2 grand for a
what's
1 bedroom
so like
apartment.
depressing for me, and a different like I recognize the privilege I have of like the pay I have and how cheap. Oh fuck that. How low cost of living is here compared to yours, but like I hate the prospect of like I may never leave here because it's just wildly more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you could. There are a few other cities in the areas,
Oh
so
fuck.
You can hear me, can you? You understand me? Fucking Jesus. I'm sorry. I can't help you. I'm sorry.
Oh, whoops. Oh boy.
I don't like it.
It's not ideal.
I ever gonna get the fuck out of here?
I don't know, man.
I mean, this is kind of also like a story. This is clearly a story of like not running away from your past, not trying to run away from your problems.
I mean, a lot of
A
horror
lot of horror.
games
A lot of
are,
horror is that.
or
Yeah.
horror in general, yes, is that exactly.
Yeah, and that's a significant amount of like sci-fi too, especially if you're talking like big
Or
space opera games that like involve being able to retreat to like the far reaches of space to avoid problems or whatever.
or like a lot of horror also deals with like
Don't get around.
the haunting is really just your trauma.
Yeah, especially in recent years.
Yeah.
But no, what I was gonna say about that story, that guy, that PhD guy, he was like,
Oh no.
I guess he asked like his advisor like about the situation, because it's just like, oh, so you're supposed to like go up in that now? Cool. His advisor was like,
You know what? That's
You-
the thumbnail
you-
right there.
yeah.
That's it.
His advisor was like, oh, you just need to get another job. And this is like a physics professor, like a post-grad with a PhD, being told, who's supposed to do research and teach, well, you need to get a second job.
This
And
is
he's like,
gorgeous,
I
by
have
the
like
way.
this is really nice looking, yeah. And it's like, he's like, I have it's something like 300 400 students in classes to take care of, and also you want me to be a good competent researcher and teacher for these kids, like college students, but
Which
like
teaching in itself is like active research on your
yeah
class.
yeah, and then
Well,
you're also
less
supposed to
I
keep
mean,
up
not-
on some
not
of your
I don't want to say less so, but like it's definitely not as like day-to-day research as like in like the collegiate level, because
you're not discovering new physics concepts, but you
no,
are going to have to
not only that, but then like it's how am I gonna try to articulate this? You're not doing as many assessments in terms of like, are they meeting these standards? Like you would have to if you're like an elementary, middle, or high school teacher, you know? Because again, college technically is optional. You're doing this for your own mastery.
yeah.
I'm sure there are standards still to like teach to,
Jesus.
but not nearly as rigorous, I would argue. Okay, they mentioned the heater. I'm like, why is this a concept randomly, it seems?
Get out of this fucking place.
But yeah, no, like that's bullshit that like a professor has to do a second job.
Thank Christ.
I mean, that's the thing I'm talking about. It's like, and this is, you know, we were talking about kids before. It's like you have kids who, for better or worse, have access to the same social media that we all do, and then you kind of have to wonder, like, is there any wonder that
They're
and
so
some of it is just, yeah, the authority thing. But like, I'm actually getting
Roy,
to another one.
fuck's sake.
Oh, he's not dead?
Since I last seen you.
I thought he was dead.
no.
That
I'm
cunt.
not gonna lie to you. We didn't have enough time to
Well,
make
didn't work out well
names
for him or the
stick
bird.
to faces and voices.
Aye, I saw Finlay. We had to get the Jennies on. And Brody as well.
The
helping with
diabetic
tension
guy.
legs. Do you know what? I'm a fucking rig expert now.
Told you to take no time. I'm glad you've not been alone out there. Those two are alright.
I saw O'Connor. He's one of these things, but I thought, fuck, I don't know what I thought, but whatever it is folk are being turned into, there's something of them still in there. What's going on, Roy?
It's alright. It's just me being clumsy. Once I get my shot, I'll be right as rain.
Do you need me to come and get you?
Oh, no, I can do it.
I do wonder how long this has been since they first started talking, because honestly,
Aye.
these diabetic issues like this can go south pretty fucking fast. So
Mm-hmm.
Aye. make it to the cabins all right?
Yeah, I'm on the way now.
So apparently they canceled the Horizon Zero Dawn Netflix series. I'm like, I didn't even know there was one in development.
I didn't know there was one. I can't keep up with all the series. Like I've said this before.
I
I
still haven't
just like
finished Fallout, even though
I
that's
wind
a
up
property I want to
I,
watch.
Right, pal.
I wind up missing out on things, and I've just kind of had to start making peace with it. It's like I honestly think that like when I get into a show again, like in seriousness, any of those big ones that I haven't watched in a long time, it'll be because I find a group of people or someone I want to watch things with on a consistent basis, and I watch those shows together.
I kind of miss doing that
Like-
on Discord. I'm not gonna lie to
like
you.
Whether those are Discord, yeah, but I just also mean like in person too.
Oh, of course.
Whether that's a friend group or a significant other, it's like kind of irrelevant to me. It's just I don't really find the same enjoyment by just watching shows on my own because
Has it got bigger?
I'm not into the social media thing. I don't go talk about it online or whatever, and I don't have a ton of people to talk to about it in my real life. I do want to watch some more movies. There's some movies I want to see that have come out
One
recently.
smark. Fuck.
Yeah, we've been doing like a movie a day recently, and it's been kind of nice. We've been choosing a lot of like hour and a half ish ones, which like,
Yeah.
oh boy,
Sus.
This reminds me. I mean, obviously it's meant to be like Eldritch stuff.
mhm.
It reminds me though too of Annihilation in particular, and I think that's
Dude,
intentional.
I
'Cause there's a
love
lot
that
of,
movie.
I've never seen the movie actually, but I read the book.
I didn't
read
read the
the
book.
series.
I've only seen the movie.
I think the movie probably doesn't even hews even closer to like the explicit like environmentalism argument a little bit. That is
Not really, no.
okay. No, well, that's surprising.
Not from
That's
what I
unfortunate.
remember.
That's unfortunate if they left that out because that is a significant part of what
Brody.
he was talking about in
Hell,
the
how
book.
you doing?
Mhm.
The book is also, I would say, so.
You mean anyone alive? I spoke to Roy. He's no doing great without his insulin. And I've no idea where Finley is now.
Wait, so the insulin guy is still alive? I thought he wasn't alive.
Yeah, he's yeah. I thought he died or something, but
I thought he got turned into a monster.
But where I was, the oil tanks are burst.
No, that was
Right,
another
it's a
guy, I
gas
think.
leak. I mean,
Oh.
I'm looking for a fucking bright side.
I don't know. I probably missed something somewhere, or the monster is tricking you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's like the thing, then probably it's just mimicking everyone.
All right, the stack. I'm kind of thinking the flare shouldn't be looking like that.
But basically, what I was getting at is like, I'll wait for this to finish. Sorry.
Right, so we're fucked.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not if we switch the flare onto the auxiliary gas pipe. If you go over to the processing quad, I can...
What? Have you seen it out there? Oh, aye, it's quite nice in here. You know, maybe we should swap.
You can't work the controls, Kaz. Otherwise, I, of course...
You're just a filthy electrician.
Christ. All right. What am I doing?
You need to get there and find the diverter valve, main to the auxiliary. It's on the middle floor, flare side. I'll ignite the stack from here.
Right.
If I can't do it, then you'll need this.
Jesus.
I'll be on the tannoy if you need any help. Good luck, Kaz.
Great.
Now, let's be clear. I don't remember much of Annihilation right now. So, like, take with what I just said with a grain of salt. I just remember it being just kind of trippy, is what I would describe it.
What game? Annihilation.
The movie, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, and I think it did. It obviously still took some,
Liberties.
well, some liberties, but also some inspiration from, what's it called?
Oh,
Ah, Christ.
our buddy's back.
Yep.
So how many actual enemies have we encountered, or monsters? Just 2 mostly, right?
I think so. 2 actual, like, fully mutated.
Formed. Okay.
Yeah. So those stories are Annihilation
It's a
and
trilogy, if I remember correctly.
Stalker. Yeah, it is a trilogy. So Annihilation and Stalker are based very closely on Roadside Picnic, which, well, Roadside Picnic is Stalker is explicitly based on Roadside Picnic. Which is
Lovely.
it's a science fiction novel written by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. It was also somewhat what?
Oh. Well then. Okay. Okay. Let's go back in here, grab that. Let's just... Okay. All right.
This looks like it.
Okay, what does it say? The glass sphere
Felt
must...
what was that again?
Hold on. My brain. Okay.
Guys, I can see the feed switching here. Glad you're alright. I've started the igniter. Give it a sec. Can't he see anything?
Of course you can't, because I'm not that fucking lucky.
No, it's not working. The gas is flowing back toward the rig. I'm sorry, Kaz. I need you to do it manually. It's too dangerous to leave it. You'll have to head out onto the stack and use the relighter I gave you.
Lovely.
Fuck.
Did you hear me, Kaz? Wave or something so I know you're receiving.
Prick.
Understood. Godspeed.
I appreciate that. Okay. I know you like stopped mid-sentence for like
Yeah, I was
a little
curious about
stealth
something,
section.
but the Roadside Picnic was I was trying to look into the details on the
Hello,
censorship with it, which
frames.
it seems like it had some censorship in the Soviet Union, but like did manage to get published somewhat easily. So like, I don't know,
Oh,
that story feels more complicated than what I've heard in the past. But
hold
in any
on.
case,
I am dropping frames like a motherfucker right now.
oh weird.
Let's do.
In any case, so Roadside Picnic is the direct inspiration for Stalker, the video game series. And then Annihilation is loosely based on a similar concept because it's like Roadside Picnic and Area X is
Okay, I'm like
part of
game. Hello?
Stalker. and the people who go into Area X are stalkers. Is the whole conceit.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
So I need to run to the edge of this thing I can't escape from with a monster.
That you can't do anything about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to save us, you stupid fucking bastard!
Games that get like really intensely active in first person.
Oh, what?
The fuck?
Uh,
I'm doing this!
Does fire even kill him though? Now you just have a burning monster.
now he's a fire type.
He might have actually died, I'm not sure.
His arm wailing is hilarious.
Oh, the way just like it was like just flaps his arm around.
I imagine he's running like Woody runs in Toy Story.
Oh. But no, I like those series. I like Jeff Vandermeer.
Oh, I'm sorry, love. I'm not being difficult. I'm just trying to pick up the pieces of your mess.
He wouldn't let it go, okay? He's carried a fucking torch for you since school. He's always
Ah.
a bigger man, and for having you in those beautiful fucking wains.
Oh, no.
Here it
Bigger
is.
man. You are shitting me, McCready. You're the bigger man. Your 8-year-old daughter's got more brains and bigger balls than you have. What about the kids? The flat's in your name. You go to Berlin and they just take it away.
Listen, Suze, come on.
No, you just shut it, McCready. You sit your arse down and you just listen to me.
How could we not just talk about this?
Because I am smarter than you, that's why. And I will not let you drag those girls down with you. Sort this. Whatever you have to do, I don't care. You sort this or I will leave you, you understand?
Suze, look, I'm really sorry.
Just enough. Okay, just get out of my sight. Try not to put anyone else in hospital today, yeah? That might make a nice change for you.
Am I just an abusive person?
Hmm?
Like, am I just a physically violent person?
I didn't mean that. Why do you have... Suze. Jesus Christ.
I don't care about that.
Fuck. Jesus.
Um,
Suze.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's probably part of the game.
Christ.
It's about learning how to accept. It's about acceptance. If it's not an analogy about environmental degradation, it's an analogy about acceptance.
Just like Resident Evil 8's DLC, it's all about accepting ourselves.
Resident Evil 8 DLC, God of War Ragnarok,
Spoilers, Connor. We haven't done that series yet.
this game. Well, yeah.
Yet.
But y'all have had 2 years.
No chance.
The water's red, guys. Or it has a red hue to it.
Because of the weird elder tors growing out of the lake bed or the ocean bed. But no, I mean, this is obviously like a story about like the things, the damage that we do to the environment and like the harm it feeds back onto us kind of thing. It's like you can't really avoid that, even if that's like not explicitly part of it, because you're talking about an oil rig that spawns this monster. Like, it could have just been an Arctic expedition thing.
Yeah,
and,
dude,
has,
and
like,
I won't lie to you.
that
like,
relationship is not as salient in that case. Like, the original thing, like, that isn't going to be part of the conversation simply because they're just on an Arctic exploration trip or whatever, or Antarctica, I think, really is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Which I haven't actually. I must admit, I have not seen the thing. I know about it a little bit. culturally.
I
but
watched
haven't
it once, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm like super eager to go watch. To be honest.
No. No. I will see. The deep ocean does concern me.
Christ, what were they up to?
Finley. Okay, that's the lady. Finley's the lady. I remember this now. I feel like we're reaching an endpoint. This feels like an endpoint.
We're gonna just replay God of War, where I thought it was ending for 4 episodes. Like
That was
6
so-
hours of content. I thought it was over.
That was so bad.
I was like, how did I forget all of this content?
I mean, I don't think I played it since its
I
launch.
do think part of it is that like my perception of the distance from the end of the game was distorted because I did side content. Like I did some of the side quests
Mm-hmm.
in my first playthrough, and I generally would in my own playthroughs.
I thought I was.
You fit to help?
Christ, can anything help?
Aye, if we can cut ourselves loose and quick like, buy us time, maybe enough.
Do we even know if anyone's coming?
We've been off radio for hours, so aye, I should hope so. Finley, good. Let's. Guys. Aye, he's a walking, greeting miracle. Are we doing this or no? Aye. We float the rig. I'll dive down, release the tension cables. Hopefully we balance out, maybe end up higher in the water. I'll need you both in marine control.
It's Roy.
I could have sworn he was a monster. Oh my god.
He's up on the roof. I have to get him.
No! You have to get to marine control with Finley. It's a two-man job and we don't have much time.
You think Roy does? Can't I just leave him? I promised I'd get him home.
Ah, let him go. Fine. If you want to go, go. But this place is filling up with gas and oil from the drill to the derrick. God knows where else it's leaking to. I can't recommend it.
I know, Brody. But I'm going. I have to.
Engineering's your only path up there, and it's flooded, so you'll have to swim. It's a long way. Plan each step. And if you're underwater, stay calm. Oh, aye, that's exactly how that'll go. Enough! You both know what you're doing, so let's go. Right, yeah, Brody. How's your nerve, alright, McCleary?
I'm coming, Roy. I'll find you.
Okay. Go for breath.
Locked.
See, that was a better explanation on what to do.
Yeah.
I will say I don't like how like forced I am to swim very slow.
Hmm.
That's always an issue I've had with like games in general. It's like the forced walk and talk. Or the forced going slow for some reason or another. Okay.
Leaks of oil in here. There must be a leak somewhere. Fuck. That's all we need. Ah.
Press this to swim faster, but not really. Okay. This way? Yes. Okay.
It.
Jump. Yes.
Wow. Wow. It's as if it was expected. I do enjoy the flashes of like
Was it expected?
that stuff when you're trying to. You're like, I can't see what I'm doing. I'm trying to swim to the surface, and now I just have all this stuff flashing in my eyesight.
Caesar inducing nonsense.
I mean, real talk. Is there even a warning at the beginning of this game? Do they warn you?
Probably.
I don't pay a lot of attention to those because I don't deal with the problem, so I miss it if it's there.
Wow. Fucking
Yeah, your
privilege,
FPS
Connor.
Your FPS is dropping. I mean, yeah. Although I will say, I
Alright.
notice when they do intense, weird flashing lights, not even that, but like much worse than that.
Okay. We're gonna heat ourselves up, and then we're gonna call it for this chunk.
This is a very weird mechanic that isn't even a mechanic. It just feels like it's to add flavor.
To add spiciness.
Like, why?
I don't
Why do
know.
you have to heat yourself up?
But once we're heated up, we're gonna continue next time.